Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on unlocking revenue with specialty, high margin, wide format applications. I'm Nithya, editor at Annex Business Media, Canada's largest B2B media company, and I'm here as your host on behalf of Print Action. Before introducing today's panelists, I have a few housekeeping details to go through. First, I'd like to thank our sponsor, SwissQ Print, who helped make this webinar possible. To our participants, if you're watching along with us, the audience is in listen-only mode. We will be taking questions throughout the discussion, so feel free to drop a question at any time using the Q&A button on your Zoom window. We are recording today's session, and all registered participants will get an email with a link to the recording in the next few days. With that, I'd like to welcome our panelist. Calvin Frey founded his print business in 2008 as a teenager, starting in his parents' basement with very little capital, but a passion for serving customers through design and print services. Since then, Innovative Digital has grown into a full-service company offering commercial printing, large format graphics, signage, OEM decals, mailing, and fulfillment from their facility in Listowel, Ontario. Kevin Graham has been selling various wide format equipment since 2008. He represented SwissQ Print through distribution from 2012 to 2018. And from February 2019, he has been responsible for Canada-wide sales for SwissQ Print. Dan Thompson is the founder and president of Italic Inc., a digitally powered and driven graphic arts manufacturing company headquartered in Toronto. Italic creates visually stunning keepsakes and environments for the world's most recognizable brands. Thank you, panelists, for joining us today. So we know wide format printing is changing rapidly, and for decades, inkjet was used for short runs, while screen and offset printing handled the longer runs. Now that balance is shifting now due to technological advancements. So let's just dig in and talk about specialty and high margin of applications that's driving profitability in the wide format sector. I want to start with Dan. Dan, how would you define specialty or high margin work today versus 5 years ago?
We've seen a big change in what we're printing on our large format devices. The largest change for us is really we're making 3D objects rather than 2D signage or roll pieces. We're integrating new materials, fabrics, and different boards that we cut and make into beautiful keepsakes. So that's really where it has changed mostly. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Dan. And Calvin, what about you?
Yeah, our business is a little bit different than Dan's. We've had the pleasure of working together and complementing each other, which has been great. Where I've seen or where we've focused more is trying to integrate ourselves into manufacturing processes. So we're surrounded with a lot of manufacturers, and with the SwissQ Print, we've been able to specialize into printing onto kind of any rigid substrates, well, rigid and flexible, but we're printing onto wood, glass, acrylics, rubbers, plastics, kind of anything you can imagine. And I would say over the last number of years, we've just really focused on and chasing after that recurring, integrate ourselves into a manufacturing stream where we become a critical part of a manufacturing process for whether that's automotive or agriculture manufacturing, that type of thing. We also do a little bit of sign and display. Probably the coolest project that we've done in terms of visual wow factor was a giant hockey puck. Last year, we did this, basically it was this giant hockey puck with a base that held it, and it was for playoff season. and we used the special effects on the Swiss Q to create the edge that felt like an actual hockey puck. So that's one example of really cool project.
How
that-
Canadian of you.
Yeah.
What's that? How Canadian? Yes,
Yes. I wish we
absolutely.
had pictures to show actually right now. I want to see the hockey puck.
Bring it out,
Yeah,
Calvin.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be
I
great.
don't have it with me right now. Otherwise, I would definitely show it. It's really cool. And
absolutely. Kevin, how would you define specialty or high margin work today versus 5 years ago?
Yeah, for us, we've seen a huge increase in requests from our customers for the additive and texture printing. Um, Whether that be to be able to print the side of a hockey puck or in a influencer box, or whether that's ADA wayfinding braille signage, anything where there's additive printing or embellishments, that seems to really have been a huge increase over the last 5 years. And the technology has gotten so much better at producing those graphics in the last 5 years as well. I mean, Swiss Q Print were some of the first to kind of to start building texture with their inks. And I mean, like anything, it gets better over time. And we've definitely seen that here at Swiss Q Print.
Absolutely, yes. Um, Dan, I want to check with you, but what first signaled to you that specialty applications was where the real margin is?
Wow. Yeah. So when we were thinking about this, I sort of go back to like, well, probably 2017-ish. And we were doing books, and there was always higher end types of books to be done with, slip cases and whatnot. And then we started to we were making what we now call social media influencer boxes, even back then, when they didn't really exist. And it just sort of spawned off of like, well, how can you make this bigger and better? How do you make this like so unavoidably like amazing that everyone just has to like look at it and go ooh and ah. So we took on that role and worked with a bunch of materials and tried to figure out how to do that. And I mean, when we have a Swiss Q Nyala, and we've had it for a long time, and we started to really push the limits of what the UV ink could do. At the time, we had to change our inks to a more flexible ink that SwissQ offers, and just to deal with printing on wild and wonderful projects. But I mean, we adorned and made like these keepsakes for professional sports players and high value individuals, and it just sort of started there. And then since then, if I had right been told that most of like a lot of our growth is going to be coming from a analog product being print that is driven by a digital need and then really is consumed digitally on Instagram, I would have told you you were crazy. But that is what's happening these days. We sort of become really good at making ideas happen very quickly, and the digital technology enables us to do that. So yeah.
Do you have any cool stories to share with us, Dan?
Oh. Ones that I can tell, yes. I mean, I'll be generic about it, but
Yeah.
we have so many what would I say, sports people that have made moments in their careers, and we are providing them with the most beautiful pieces of book and memorabilia, like large photo book, like super huge photo books, super embellished, um, raised glosses, weird and wonderful foil stamps, and that's all. What we've really been trying to do over the years is combine old school analog finishing techniques such as foil stamping and embossing with high quality, very large, beautiful digital print. And so we use our Swiss Q a little bit differently because we're doing a lot of things on it that probably we shouldn't be, but I don't know, it hasn't broken yet, so we keep doing it. And then that leads us into new markets, new people, and but like when you produce a keepsake for a singer that comes into town, and she tweets out about it, and it reaches 2.2 million views on Instagram. That's pretty wild within the first hour. So yeah, we do things that are impactful. And I think a lot of the things we're doing really are starting to like change a narrative or raise awareness, and so the idea that digital print is just for manufacturing and it's much bigger than that in our world. It's about being able to make things that don't exist and do it quickly so that people can really express themselves in a new and wonderful way. So that's really where it's sort of changed for us is, we don't say no much, and we say it might not work, but we'll try it. And that's the flexibility that digital and specifically like large format has given us in the last few years. So yeah.
It's that, creating those unique experiences that keep the conversation going, right, Dan? That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, like hyper personalized, versionized, and granular, like to the nth degree. Like, what you are getting, it's not just has your name on it. It's you're getting something totally different, but in the same flavor as everybody else who's getting the same package. So it's really interesting that with not only digital print, but the digital workflows that surround that, you can do that very nicely and tidily, and really produce these projects that are quite unique, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Calvin, when did you realize that this is something special and this would add to my bottom line?
I was thinking about that question. I don't think I have an exact timeline of kind of when I noticed it. But the response to that would be more any printer that's in the commercial space understands from doing estimating and working hard to win jobs that if you're doing the run-of-the-mill stuff, if you're not differentiating yourself in one way or another, then often price is what determines whether you get the job or not.
Yeah.
So being able to specialize in one way or another, whether that's the way Dan is doing it with highly customized influencer type stuff, or the way that we're doing it and printing onto things that people don't even think printers do, right? Printing on it. If you look around at, excuse my voice, if you look around at anything that you're purchasing, there's probably ink on it somewhere, either, instructional, directional, graphics, whatever. And so if you can get a niche where you are providing something that can't just be quoted against, 50 other competitors, that's where you can add something to the bottom line.
Absolutely, yes, Calvin. Yeah. And Kevin, I mean, you talk to printers all the time. When did you start seeing this shift?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, once I started with SwissQ Print directly, I'm very fortunate that I work with a lot of customers like the Dans and the Calvins and a lot of people in the wide format market that when they need support on something specialty and how to do this, that's when SwissQ Print steps in and supports them. And so in our showroom, we have a lot of the specialty applications where we've been able to help customers get past the hurdle of how do I do this? And that's ongoing. But for me, it was noticing it when I started with SwissQ Print in a direct capacity at how much customers like to push the limits with these presses and want to do more and want to do more and that's not changing. And so yeah, for me, it was, like I said, 2019 when I started directly, I noticed that, wow, people are really doing some unique things outside of putting process to paper.
Absolutely. And Kevin, I'm sure you've heard of gazillion stories. Is there anything that you would like to share with us about how far people are pushing the envelope and the capability and capacity of each press?
I without having customer
Consent. Okay.
consent, I wouldn't want to do that, Nithya. But I
Okay.
would say that if you ever get the chance to come to our facility in Chicago, you'd be able to see some very spectacular prints that would open your eyes to what's possible with a wide format press.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'll just jump in there too and just say like, our customers can't really qualify it. They say, why does your print look so good? And that's for a number of reasons, like it's there on time, mainly. But they're really talking about the quality of what
Mm.
they're seeing and how dense the reds are, for example, and not washed out to be orange or in a UV context, a UV ink context, or they're talking about how well, all the gradients are working to create a beautiful, skin tone, which is, the quality of the heads and the way that the press like works, basically. We don't get a lot of banding and we don't get a lot of, weird and wonderful chips or, dust or, because the way the machine is put together. And so when you put color management and some automation on the front of that too, it's really amazing that you can, have really small or versionized jobs come through really quickly and accurately. And we don't even worry about the quality of the press. We just take that as take it for granted that, what's going out the door is of the highest quality. So that's where this technology sort of lands you. Um, and is it the cheapest technology on the market? No. But what no one tells you is, there's not a lot of maintenance to it, if any, and there's not a lot of rework because what's going out the door looks amazing all the time. So that's sort of where we land on it.
That's great. Thanks,
Yeah,
Don.
Yeah.
Cal.
I can add a little something to that as well. And again, without naming clients or anything like that. Two examples. One of them was in the automotive industry, printing onto plastics, and we couldn't get the ink to stick, and we sent off a sample of the product to Swiss Q, and their team figured it out on their end, gave us the exact specs of how to run it on our end, and it was, yeah, now we have ink that sticks really well on this difficult to print plastic piece. And another one is an artist that makes these incredible paintings with 3D inks on it, and she sends it off, gets it scanned, and sends us the file that the Swiss Q recognizes, and we're producing the production run for her, the prints of her original, and just an incredible quality. So yeah, I can definitely echo exactly what Dan's talking about. It's not the cheapest press on the market, but it might actually be the cheapest operating press because you never have to, you're never calling wondering why it's not working.
Yeah, I would
But I
agree.
guess so. My question, Calvin, is that like with those specialty applications, like you're fetching much higher margins with those
Mhm.
textured art reproductions and things that were difficult to have ink to stick to. So
For sure.
um,
Well,
yeah,
you're doing two things. One is you're fetching a higher margin. You're also um, set apart. They can't just go down the road to the next print
Right,
shop,
Yeah.
get the exact same thing.
right. Yeah, we see that a lot too, where, the products that we're making, no one's making them. So either because they're not, one could argue they're not scalable at a rate that is analog.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's a digital product.
Yeah.
But we're running digital equipment, so it makes sense for us to do it.
Yeah.
But at the quality and speed that the Swiss Q and UV ink can get us there, it's amazing to see that there is really not a lot of competition in these markets,
Mm.
and that does drive higher value.
Mm.
It gives us the freedom to, price it such that it might fail, But we'll try it again and we'll get it done. You know what I mean? In a way that works. So it really enables innovation, which is lacking in a lot of print shops that I see sometimes, that they only do certain things. They only do because the difference where it really comes down to it is, they're trying to just go on capacity and price. And like we have so much open time at our place that, you know, we very rarely get overwhelmed and busy, but that is starting to happen now because we are doing so much specialty. Um, but the value per sheet is way higher than, what a commodity price would.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Let's talk about margins then. I mean, can you walk me through the difference in margins between a typical run-of-the-mill wide format job and a specialty application like that, plastic, which required some tweaking of inks and to get it for it to stick. So what would the difference be
Well, in our case,
approximately? I mean, I know
yeah,
what
Go ahead,
we,
Ben.
we might sell it a sheet of 12 by 18 for $450, rather than 97 cents. It's big.
it's
Uh,
huge.
yeah, yeah. So who doesn't like that? The paper vendors, because we're driving so much value per sheet. But we're using a lot of ink and we're using a lot of our skill and time to get it out um, perfectly. And then the other part of that too is we're putting a lot of extra finishing onto each sheet. So whether it be cutting, laser cutting, die stamping, we are adding sheets to each other, duplexing, a whole bunch of stuff just to make it look good, adding leathers to one side. I mean, we're in the fashion district right now, and we often go to seek ribbons or go down and buy a hide of leather that we're putting on the Swiss queue and printing. So it's really interesting because it's never really static around our place. That's it.
That's great. Can I just make a quick plug-in, Dan? And the Canadian Printing Awards celebrates excellence in printing, and these are some of the print projects that I would love to be seen submitted. And
A lot we can't share, but there are some that we can, and yes, we'll try and get you
just
some
a, sh a
something too.
shameless plug for that for the Canadian Printing. But even this is print
Amazing.
excellence. I mean, the jobs that you're talking about. I mean, I would love to see them celebrated on a large scale and honored as well. So, Calvin, what about you? When we talk about margins, what's the difference?
I don't think there's an exact number, like you can't say
No,
specialty gives you 200% more. It's so job specific. Take the art reproduction we do for this one artist. The price per square foot is astronomically higher than the price per square foot if you're in a manufacturing stream. But you're doing a few of them, you're not doing thousands of them. So I would view it like a sliding scale where the more specialized it is, the harder it is to do.
yeah,
The more effects that you're adding, the higher the dollar amount per square foot, if you want to think about it that way, or per hour that your machine is running. And then you have to balance that with, is this a one-off, or are you producing 50, 100, or 1,000 of these? And that's where I think every shop is going to have to figure out what their tolerance is for specialty work, price points, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's also because there's so much thought and innovation going into it as well, right? It's not
Yes.
just a regular ink on paper. It's not that kind of a job as well. So
Yeah,
no,
rarely is the value, the ink itself. It's what you're able to do. And the Swiss Q opens that just wide open.
yeah.
And I'll put a little shameless plug in here for Swiss Q. And that is there's plenty of brands that will do the, raised gloss or this or that, the other thing. But raised gloss isn't any good if it doesn't line up perfectly.
right.
No,
Yeah,
all those things. Kevin mentioned Braille, uh,
Mhm.
like accessibility signage.
Yeah.
We've done some of that for the hotel industry. And yeah, people are blown away that this is just ink, but it looks like a, beautiful acrylic piece with Braille on it. And the precision of which the Swiss Q lays down the ink is the critical piece there.
That's great. Kevin, in your experience, what have you heard in terms of margins from other printers?
Again, I can't really speak to the margin side of things, but what
Yeah.
I can speak to is that when, we've had multiple customers where they've seen their business shift
Mm.
and where they're now turning down, low margin, high volume work to focus more on the specialty, high margin, high value work. So, it's funny. One customer said to me, I thought I was buying a printer. I ended up buying a new business model,
Great.
because yeah, and it was fantastic to hear. So again, I can't speak to specifics in the numbers, but like I said, we do see a shift that once someone brings in these capabilities to be able to do some of this higher value, higher margin, higher touch point work, is that their business shifts towards maybe, a more for less kind of a business.
Yeah,
Right.
I like that term, more for less.
Yeah, I would also add to that though too that like even on your high volume, lower margin type work, retail, signage, POP, you can always upsell those streams with more capability, spot glosses, neon colors, like beautiful whites, and add some really good things that even the more commoditized markets can or sectors want, because even they are having a hard time differentiating themselves in the market. So with a Swiss Q, you really have so many different tools available to you in the market as a salesperson to whether it be print on demand or retail POP or really high specialty market. It does it all, and it does it well. So, but yeah, where are you going to focus? You're going to focus on, what you're comfortable with, but know that this technology has come to the point where it can really its uptime keeps you saving money because you can keep going, even and there's no real service calls. Like that's the beauty of it, for us. Yeah.
That's great. Calvin, I want to check with you and ask you about, so how has diversifying your mix of applications that you're offering, helped your profitability, and which types of specialty applications have surprised you the most in terms of demand and profitability?
Yeah, diversification is obviously healthy. Just if one market is up, another one might be down, vice versa, that kind of thing. So diversifying into different applications, particularly on the Swiss Q large format stuff, has been very helpful. Seasonal things, you might get something that all of the work gets produced in February and March, and then nothing for the rest of the year. If you diversify, you can fill in those gaps. But the question of the most surprising one,
Yeah.
again, without naming customers, the two most surprising one, well, the single most surprising one to me is printing onto wood for the game industry. We're talking like tabletop, good old fashioned games. So that's been a really cool market that we've been serving for the last probably 5 or 6 years kind of thing. So that's one example.
Mhm.
When you think of print shop, you don't think about that, right?
No, no, it never
Yeah.
came to my mind at all. So
Yeah.
good to know. Dan, in your experience, how was diversifying the applications and adding in these specialty ones helped profitability? And any surprises in terms of demand for any specific application?
I mean, it really has filled in a lot of holes for us. And I'm always amazed at like what gets demand. So, I mean, there's a trend on TikTok that's taken off, and you're making this project that is ridiculous, really, like a large piece of cake or something like that, that's a box. And you say, okay, well, we're going to make a big piece of cake today. That's it. And that's always interesting. And what's driving that are some could say like frivolous needs on the internet, but on the other hand, there are very few channels for large brands to advertise these days, and it's valid. So, I mean, we see the the best part of this is we're getting access to direct brands these days that never would have been possible before, because they're actively searching out these products, and is wonderful, to be honest. And I also think that, what drives the industry, what's driving is its differentiation any way possible. So like if you can differentiate yourself by printing on a silver latex embedded paper and wrapping it around a ball, you go for it. You know what I mean? And then, but as printers, we better be ready to be able to say yes to these projects and keep in our tool set tools that enable us to respond. Um, so that's been the biggest part. I had the opportunity to go over to Spain this year and go see what was happening at FESPA, and uh, and there really was a lot of great things happening there, and I feel like we're well positioned to to meet the demand of the changing market, which is more personalized, more specialty, more blinged out, and differentiated any way possible. And that is not just for social influencer media kits, but that's also for retail signage and for, high volume, whatever. Everyone wants to add a little spin to it. And if you can do it, and do it in the value chain that is being offered, good for you. So yeah, that's really how I see it.
That's great. Kevin, any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, like I said, these guys they see it more than I do. For me, it's when you talk about diversifying, when I talk to different clients in the market, it's having versatility available to them to kind of be able to touch on all those markets. And I think both Calvin and Dan have kind of said it today, is that just the ability to say yes to everything that walks through the door.
Mhm.
That's kind of a differentiator for them and allows them to kind of get some of those specialty jobs. But along with some of those specialty jobs might come some, other high value work. But because they're able to say yes to this one, they probably have a better chance at getting both. So, just having that versatility available to both of them, it's going to give them obviously a wider diversity of jobs and bring in higher revenue.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And I just want to let the audience members know that we are ready to take questions. So at any time, so if you have any questions for any of the panelists, feel free to, drop it into the Q&A or the chat box, and we're more than happy to address them. Moving on, Calvin, just a quick question about, for shops that are still primarily doing signage or banners, when does specialty work make the investment worthy? Because we spoke about this, and we shared this fact that these presses are not cheap, right?
Yeah, well, the investment in a Swiss queue is always worth it. No, you do need, obviously, you need to have the work for it. Or you need to have a stream of some kind of work to justify any piece of equipment that you're going to purchase. What I would say on the investment in the equipment side specifically is you don't have to look at a Swiss queue as you're purchasing it for specialty only. It's the premium, in my opinion, the best machine on the market in the flatbed printing world. And because it's the best, it does specialty really well. But our machine runs just day-to-day stuff all the time as well.
Yeah.
So I would say, obviously, don't purchase something that you can't afford.
Yeah.
But if you are looking at purchasing equipment, buying something that will also do the specialty work and open up that door for you, I think is a good choice.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. Dan, what do you think?
I'm sorry, what was the question again? I'm sorry getting
Oh,
lost.
I mean, the question is, when does this investment in such printer presses become worthy? If a print shop is now doing just signage and banners, investing
I,
in a like Swiss Q Print,
yeah,
which isn't cheap.
yeah. I mean, I would get your pulse on what your customers are saying for sure. And is it for everybody? No, because some shops just want to run, a very specific application, and there's probably another press out there for that. But if you have a diverse range of materials and jobs and expectations you need to get, I mean, get done. The Swiss Q for us has really been a great tool to satisfy everybody and bring quality up and then get them used to seeing better. You know what I mean? So um, the type of clients we've attracted because of our marketing efforts, but also we can back it up with our product because of the SwissQ platform has changed, and we are dealing with higher end brands, higher end clients, um, and we're able to increase their timeliness, like the time to market for them. So it's been a real win. I think if you're looking at when to do it, I've always been under the impression to shoot as high as you can and reach for the stars. We were a small company when we onboarded SwissQ technology, but it replaced two flatbeds for us. So our new investment in the Kudu this year will replace, again, two of what we currently have. So we're seeing good growth in this market, uh, and uh, and it's just about doing as much as you can at the right time. Obviously, during a pandemic, I wouldn't be doing this, but now, even now with uncertainty in the markets, it is certain because what we've learned over the past, how long has it been, Kevin, since we've had the nail? Like
8 years.
8 years. The
Yeah.
past 8 years, we've had one service call, and so we look at this investment totally differently than other presses that are in the market. We know it's going to hold its not just its value, but its raison d'etre, for what we're doing for at least 8 years, and it's still not going to be obsolete at that point. We'll still get more life out of it. And so if depending on where you are in your business cycle, if you want to go for the next 10 and really make a long-term investment, this would be for me, the rationale to use. So
Good to know. Kevin, lots of compliments for Swiss Q Print on this call. Well, obviously deserved. But Kevin, when someone is approaching you to talk about a new press and you're looking at their business and applications that they're doing, what sort of what sort of a recommendation do you make to them, and how do you see Swiss Q Print fitting into their business model?
Again, we're not a fit for everybody, but so the first thing is to kind of sit down and let's have some open conversation. And one of the first things I always talk about are you outsourcing jobs that you can't do in-house today? What does that look like? How does your operator enjoy working with the press? Are they constantly fighting with the press, or is it something they get excited to come into work and work on the printer? Um, um, look, that's kind of where I start with it from there. And then, and also, where do you see the business in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? Um, and from there we can kind of develop a plan. And there's been several cases, Nithya, where I've told, hey, you're not ready for this kind of investment yet, but let me partner you with somebody like a Calvin or a Dan that can produce the work for you until you get to a point where, hey, once you start seeing this kind of outsourced dollars, then you are ready for this. Um, and at the same token, if you're kind of quoting on jobs on a regular basis and you're kind of always losing the jobs, is it because other people have higher print quality, different capabilities? What are they doing differently? So again, it really, we're not a fit for everybody, but it just really starts with the conversation and an overall business and in a short-term outlook and long-term outlook.
Okay, sounds good. There's a question here for you, Kevin. This is
Yeah.
from William Wilson. He wants to know, what is the difference between pyramid printing and chameleon?
Between which, sorry?
I'm not, I wonder if it's a joke or what, but what is the
No,
difference
it's not.
between, it's not a
No.
joke, okay? Pyramid printing and chameleon.
Yes, this is some of our new specialty printing capabilities, where we're able to kind of shift color, and I'll put a plug in for anybody that would like to see any samples of this. They can reach out to me directly, and we'll get my contact information out to anybody. But the pyramid and chameleon, it's just the difference in how thick we're laying down the ink, William. And so it is a different look. Both have a similar specialty feature, but it's just a different look and feel on the material itself.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And there was another question for Dan over here as well. Let me just pull that up. What type of embellishments are you selling on roll media?
Unrolling media.
Yeah.
Well, raised ink for sure. We do that with some of our wrap materials for edge turn materials. And we are also doing gloss variation in certain circumstances that works. And then we are also using SwissQ to help produce some of our emblem work that we make. So we're making a product, our Impress product, which is a durable emblem that is pressed under heat and in a analog die. And this is a really interesting product, but the SwissQ's been able to, and that's roll stock. So we're able to add some features on that too, whether it be white ink, clear on clear, or some semi-transparent features that the varnish enables us to do. So yeah.
Thanks, Dan. Calvin, my question to you is, are there any certain specialty segments that are more regional or client specific, or are you seeing broad demand across markets? If yes, which ones?
Our client base is well over 90% regional, and I would say even pretty rural based. We're in a small mid-sized town, and again, our focus on getting into the manufacturing stream probably has defined some of that. So for us, the specialty market is not contained to a region. Our clients are, because that's who we focused on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dan?
I don't know. I travel a lot, so our customers are worldwide. We have customer bases. We have customers in Australia, a lot in America. We're down New York, Chicago, Napa, various places in California, and we have clients that are based out of Europe as well. So we print locally here, distribute mainly in North America, but the clients can be anywhere really. So yeah.
Yeah.
So the coolest thing we did in terms of clients far away is and this isn't SwissQ specific, we do a lot of OEM decals, we printed a decal that went to a manufacturer that was producing a piece of the Mars rover. So we printed a piece that headed off to Mars.
Oh, that's amazing.
That is the best. I don't think any of us
That's
can
our
top
claim
that
to
at this
fame right
point.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I printed a Mars bar wrapper once. That's about it.
That's Dan's claim to fame at this
Yeah,
point,
I don't know
among
that.
other things, of course. Yeah.
None of our work is in outer space. I can tell you that. I can say this, though. Some of our work has been put into the North Sea underwater for aquaculture.
Oh,
And
very cool.
that is actually like outer space.
Totally. That's
Probably
really
more
cool.
harsh of an environment in some
Yeah.
respects, but
Mhm.
yeah, that was a really fun project to work on. They were trying to transport fish from one pen to another, and they needed to colorize
Wow.
this tube that was transporting salmon or something like that.
How cool is
Yeah,
that?
that was fun. Yeah.
That is such a cool story. Thanks,
Mhm.
Dan.
You're welcome.
Kevin, are you seeing any certain segment that seems to have broad demand across markets?
Like I said, for people that are calling me specifically, a lot of it is to deal with the tactile and it's more specifically on the ADA wayfinding signage market. I think that's really kind of taken off. Um, and everyone wants to be able to produce that. So I would say as a segment, that is one area that a lot of print service providers are getting requests.
Okay, okay, sounds good. Um, Dan and Calvin, my next question is to both of you. Like, what equipment or software investments are non-negotiable when moving into these high margin specialty, applications? Swiss Print, of course, we know about that. But any other
Yeah,
technology or software that you want to talk about or share?
I,
Calvin,
I don't mind sharing what we use.
yeah.
Um, I would say all of them probably have competitive solutions out there. We use Caldera primarily as our RIP and also use their version of the nesting software for efficiency. Swiss Print, obviously, and Zund for routering, knife cutting, creasing. Um, we love all that stuff. And then you're going to want some kind of, depending what you're doing, for box making, you're going to need some kind of CAD type of software. Um, I'll let Dan speak to that.
Yeah, so we are up front. ESCO has been a really good workflow solution for us to either bring in or help process our proofing through various tools of theirs. I would also say, once getting it to the large format, our color is managed by GMG and that's been really great to standardize over multiple devices in our shop, which is key. The After the press, I mean, Zund has been a very consistent piece of cutting. It's cutting, cutting, cutting. Like so, either all the tools that you can imagine on the Zend, uh, but also laser cutting. We tend to have small sheet cutting devices like a robotic XY cutter. We have outsourced 5-axis robotic arm cutting for three-dimensional type pieces, which get vehicle wrapped afterwards. Um, and that's sort of where I think our future might lie. And then sewing for backlit and SEG frame systems, like that sort of idea. But like it's finishing, finishing, finishing. So you have to sort of like get the press installed first and build over years as your applications or your clients' demand dictates, basically. But all of those, it's heavily on the finishing side, mainly.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dan. Good to know that. So, curious to know a couple of things. One is, how did you have to change your production workflow to support this kind of high margin specialty applications? And also talk to me a little bit about training. Did your team need any new skills or training to execute this work? And how did you approach these two things? Dan, Calvin? You're laughing. I want to hear.
Some of the stuff is not really trainable. Like I don't know, a lot of trial and error. But I would say have the pricing structure embedded in your systems so that you can throw a whole bunch of upfront on prototyping. Visualization is key. So we have been heavily trying to digitize our visualization of products, even in a three-dimensional space. And then, when it gets downstream, we have various like the morning huddle is very important for us because we totally don't know really how some of these things are actually going to come together until they start coming together. That's hyper, like really specialized work that we've never done before. Most of the time, we know kind of what we're doing, I would say, and that doesn't sound like we have an approach and a plan, and then the commodity stuff, it all just runs per the SKU. So I feel like you have to have enough knowledge on how to price things for how specialized it is, so that you don't end up just wasting a bunch of time, wasting a bunch of money basically, and burning it in the middle of the room. So that is how we approach it basically.
Good to know, Dan. Calvin, what about you?
Yeah, I think Dan said it well there. In addition to that, in our experience, like I mentioned before, if we say yes to a project and there's a material that we don't know, like how to set it properly for adhesion or this or that, Swiss Q at their demo room with their professionals have helped us out multiple times with that. So yeah, a little bit is like there's no training course, that solves all of these things. You kind of have to get into it and figure it out.
And that's the fun
we
of
found
it.
that we found that the support has been good. So
yes, we have to.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, and a lot of times you're not reinventing the wheel. You're someone else has asked for it, and there's a lot of times where someone like Calvin has already sent the material in, and our guys already know the answer. So if you come across that problem, and then Dan becomes that, hey, how do I do this? Our guys already know the answer. So I would say 9 times out of 10. It's not super unique when our guys by the time it gets to our guys, they've already helped someone else figure it out. And so it's a quick turnaround. So I always tell Dan and Calvin, have your guys call our guys first before you go too in deep, trying to figure it out yourselves, because 9 times out of 10, we're able to we've already done it for somebody else and can give you the shortcut.
That's helpful to have that community, right? Everybody,
of course.
That collective experience helps people grow as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, question, what's the biggest bottleneck people underestimate when they start taking on specialty jobs?
time investment.
Time and investment?
Yeah, the investment of time is what I'm saying.
Investment plan.
Rarely is it the actual production of the piece, in my experience. It's narrowing down figuring out customer expectation, digital visualization of the product, that kind of stuff. The actual ink on substrate kind of thing is usually not the bottleneck.
I would totally agree on that. We've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to visualize quickly up front to mitigate either people, being surprised, or providing them with even more opportunity to make it more custom based on quickly, making iterations digitally before even going to press. That is upfront. That's the bottleneck, usually getting it approved. And once approved, there can be bottlenecks on finishing when things go a little bit sideways, or when, materials aren't available for some reason in this lovely world of just in time. And then, but usually there are many ways to get many ways to skin a cat, I guess. So we usually find alternatives. You have to be very flexible, and your workforce needs to be um, flexible in the way that they know that they can make mistakes and yet proactively work on fixing them themselves. So it's about trusting your people in many cases, and it can't be um, because we're in so many unknowns on the specialty work all the time, and it's silly stuff like how do you how do the glue isn't holding the piece down properly, or I don't know, something doesn't fit properly, or the Mars bar doesn't fit in the hole. I don't know, stuff like this that we spend a lot more time on, and it can be distribution too, because when you're making individual things, um, you know, maybe Calvin gets one with a lollipop in it, and Kevin gets a candy cane, and you must know that these things are going out the door properly. So it can get very difficult on the very end of the process as well. So
Good to know that, Dan. Kevin, in your experience, what's been the biggest bottleneck?
Again, it is the time, and when people always look at all the specialty prints that we can produce, it's how do I prepare the file for this?
Yeah.
And so there is some pre-press that is required for to be able to do that. Unfortunately, it's not just a simple hit print and away you go, and which is good, which is allows guys like Calvin and Dan to differentiate themselves from the people that just hit print. But it is time for sure. Like Calvin said, once it gets to the printer, that's the easy part. It's setting customer expectations and the time to maybe prep the file and make sure it's right going out the door.
Absolutely, yes. We're almost out of time. So I have one last question for all three of you. Now, if a print shop owner is on the fence about entering and offering specialty applications, what's the one piece of advice you'd like to give them? Dan, let's start with you.
just say yes and figure it out. Like honestly, that's the only, and then you'll either get burned and so like shocked that you're never going to do it again, or you're going to have such a great time and then realize how wonderful it is to surprise and delight people with something new and innovative. That's
Absolutely.
that's it.
Yeah. One of the ways I was mentored is being thrown into the deep water. You just go figure it out, and somehow that kind of helped me become resilient and learn and be innovative as well. So this
We're in the
resonates.
middle of the ocean all the time. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Calvin, what about you?
What I would say is if it's a commercial printer or someone that's kind of doing maybe more of the commercial standard work, there's been plenty of print shop owners that have made the assumption you buy the equipment and the work will show up.
Mm.
That's not a safe assumption to make. So you have to have a sales strategy and a marketing strategy that fits with it as well. And if you have that and you get the gear, then I agree with what Dan said. Jump into it, figure it out, mess up, do it again, find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would also add to that, you need a back end strategy, in-house strategy on your production floor to
Yeah.
have a culture of innovation and not a culture of, oh my goodness, if I get this wrong, I'm going to be in trouble. That has to just go away.
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely, yes. Kevin, you're in the wide format, large format business all the time. So, you're immersed in that. So, what do you see as the next high margin opportunity emerging in wide format over the next 2 to 3 years? All years.
Again, I don't think there's anything specific, Nithya. Like stuff has kind of come out of nowhere, and it's innovators like Dan and Calvin that just say yes, and then we figure out how to do it collectively. So, had you asked me 5 years ago, did I think wayfinding Braille was going to be the next big thing? I would have been, shocked to say if I'd said yes. So, art reproduction, I would never have imagined it's gotten to the point that it is now. So, I wish I had a crystal ball because we would start printing those samples immediately, but unfortunately we don't. We'll just have to say yes and make it work.
Absolutely, yes. So let's all say yes to whatever is coming through at our door to our doors. On
I
that note,
love it.
thank you, Calvin, Dan, and Kevin, for your time today and for your insights into wide format printing. Many thanks to our sponsors, SwissQ Print, for their support in putting together today's webinar. If you'd like a sample kit about these high margin specialty applications from SwissQ Print, please contact Kevin at kgr@swissqprint.ca. I've left his email ID in the chat as well so that you can access it easily. A reminder that a recorded video of this presentation and discussion will be emailed to attendees over the next few days. Before you leave, please share your feedback about this webinar in the survey that will pop up after the broadcast ends. Thank you for your attention and enjoy the rest of the day.